At 6 p.m., let me make sure everything's unmuted. We have a special city council meeting that's been called by multiple council members. Can we please have roll call?
Brooks. Here. Harmon.
Here?
Lilly.
Here.
Sanders.
Here.
Williams. Here. Broderick. Here. Thomas. Wade.
Here.
We have before you a resolution approving the terms and conditions of a lease for the restaurant space at the Greens at North Hills. This is sponsored by council members Harmon, Thomas, Brooks, and Williams. At this time, I will turn it over to one of these sponsoring city council members, Council Member Harmon.
Thank you. I'm going to work from down here today, but I can work the TVs. Forgive me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. There are a number of issues in the lease, as I understand, don't drink my water. Number of issues in the lease, as I understand it, that have come up, not just the rent, but there's been questions about cure provisions, about of course, we have the issue about the liquor exclusivity and all these different issues. So I've just listed them down, and I'm going to give my opinion, the fixes we've given, what we've done, why things are the way we are, and then people can come back after I've done all this, and I've actually got some exhibits on some of this stuff. So I'm going to start with the cure provision that was brought up last time. We negotiated, we originally had a 30-day cure provision in the document, and that was a mistake. That was in the original document that we got as a template from another law firm. Typically, if I send out a lease provision, it's going to have a 72-hour cure provision in it. And something like 72-hour, at most, it'll have 7 day. This had a 30-day cure provision in it, and the reason it had we changed it to 15 day, was at the meeting before last on this subject. The tenant's attorney brought up the issue, and I made a mistake. He said, as I found out later, he said, regarding the cure provision, we'd like to put in a 72-hour cure provision. I never heard 72-hour. All I heard was we'd like to put in a cure provision. And my response was, there's already a 30-day cure provision in the document. And of course he went, oh yeah, okay, that's fine. You know, he's no dummy. He's not going to say, well, I said 72-hour. Can't we have our 72-hour cure provision? I don't want a 30-day cure provision. So he took it. I found out what I'd done. I called him, and I mentioned the conversation versus what I said. And he said, no, I know what you're going to try to do, and we're going to stick with what's offered, the 30-day cure provision. I said I wasn't going to try to take you to the 72-hour, but I was going to see if you'd be willing to split the difference and go to a 15-day cure provision. He said, oh yeah, we'd be willing to do that. I understand what happened, and we'd be willing to go to a 15-day cure provision. That's not a problem. So we went to a 15-day cure provision. Now, I understand some people would like to, out of fairness to the tenant, go back to the 30-day cure provision because 15 days seems too short. So now I'm going to show you why you don't give people 30-day cure provisions. If I can get this to come up on the TVs up there. And it's not going, oh, the TVs aren't on. How do I get the TVs on, Josh? Do what?
Call it Cameron.
Is it in this rule or something? You work for both of them? It works. He's good. Let him warm up a second. Okay. One of them worked. There they are. On January the 23rd, this was a photograph taken outside of the restaurant, and you can see this is outside the balcony also from the second floor, where you can see where the trash has been dumped on the and just outside the building around where all the air conditioning units are kept. Now, today, I asked for another picture to be taken. February 5th, we've got it just as bad or worse in the same spots. And from different areas, you can see that trash is accumulating where it shouldn't. Now, another picture, a pristine, very clean dumpster that, and Blake, remind me, do we pay for the dumpster?
Yes.
That the city provides at no cost to the tenant to put all that trash in. Now, if we send a notice to a tenant on March 1 and said, you're putting trash outside the building that needs to be in the dumpster, we need to move to the dumpster. A tenant, any tenant that was in that place with this lease, anywhere, could say, okay, guys, put it on the calendar for March 28th to move all that trash to that dumpster. And just keep putting it where it is, because I really don't want to take the time. I don't want you to take the time to haul it all the way out to that dumpster till then, and we could just get a pickup truck and haul it out on the 28th to the dumpster, because they usually come around the 30th to clean the dumpster out. So we'll wait till the end of the month to put it in the dumpster and just keep putting it where it is. Couldn't do a thing about it. Couldn't do a thing about it. And then in April, they could do the same thing. 28 days of violating the lease terms, and then put it out there, and we couldn't do anything. We could give them notice after notice after notice. Okay? That's the reason you don't do 30-day cure clauses in leases,
Charlie,
because you can be taken advantage of.
I'm the one that brought it to Steve's attention, only because I had taken my notes and we had the 30th. I was not aware that y'all had come to a compromise on 15. That's why I brought it back to Steve's attention.
Okay?
We did not know that.
All right. So in addition to the 15-day provision, because this garbage issue was brought to my provision garbage issue was brought to my attention just in the last few weeks, I also updated the garbage provision and condition of premises. What name was it? It now says that under condition of premises, not permit any accumulation of garbage, trash, rubbish, or other refuse in the premises, on the premises, in the building, or in areas surrounding the building or the dumpster, provided for the disposal of such garbage, trash, rubbish, and refuse. And Roman numeral 4, keep such refuse and trash in proper containers inside the building, and the refuse and trash shall be removed from the building daily to the dumpster, provided for containment of such refuse and trash. So there's no question from now on that the trash is taken daily out to the dumpster. So I think that clarifies what happens with the trash from now on, so that we won't have that situation.
Can I say something? That picture you took today, that trash for this weekend,
Okay?
it rained all weekend. The way they take the trash is by golf cart, all the way across the parking lot to the other end of the parking lot. They're not doing that in the rain, and I'm not gonna expect them to. And today is Monday. I don't have a cart because the golf course is closed. So today, it can't be taken. So while you can say it daily, it can't be taken daily.
Okay.
And you're saying I'm gonna accumulate trash for a
Okay.
month. I've never done that.
Okay.
We get a lot of trash.
I'm
over
going to
a weekend.
point out, the dumpster's paid for you. Your utilities are paid for. You're getting, this lease is a sweetheart lease.
What
I
would you like-
realize,
How would you like me to pick it up and carry it on my back to that dumpster?
no, but you can buy a trash cart where they make large trash carts, and they can wheel the trash from your
All
place.
the way across from one end of the building, all the way to the other end of the golf cart course.
Once a day, yes. If it's one day's trash, yes.
Can we,
Want me to do that?
can we get back on track here with the council? You're going to get an opportunity to speak. You're signed up to speak, but we're not really supposed to, under the rules, to have a back and forth with the council.
Okay. The second issue I had, that's the cure provision, that's the garbage pictures and the cure provision and the new garbage provision. Other issue was, I think, the smoking provision and the definition for the smoking provision. And for that, that's under the rules. under rules number 6, it says the building shall be a non-smoking building, and with no smoking allowed on the premises, okay? Building and premises are defined in the document, and they don't include the patio. So that automatically, when you read that, the patio is permitted smoking. So if I tried to doctor that and say, but you're allowed to smoke in the patio, then that convolutes the definition of building and premises, and people read that and say, well, elsewhere in the document, when you say building and premises, does it include patio? So that clarifies that patio is not done. So, all right. Fixing the fire alarm provision, that was repaired. On the same page that the rent is at the bottom, you'll see that now it includes under our operating expenses that the landlord pays, fire suppression and alarm just after the dishwasher and vent hood. And that's what April pointed out to us at the last meeting, should be the responsibility of the city. That's now covered in that provision. Let's see. The exclusive liquor provision. Now this, I think, is going to be something that we'll have to discuss, but I'm going to give my 2 cents on this first. Here's the email that we all received, and Aaron Lowry, attorney with the Arkansas Alcohol Beverage Control Provision for the state of Arkansas, it said, let me clarify my previous email. In order to approve an expansion to your current premises, ABC would need to know the city of Sherwood is granting you access. And it says, it's cut it off, but it says basically access to the upstairs banquet facility, and not just for the days you were serving at an event. It would have to be access at all times, similar to how the current lease gives you access to your current premises. Okay. This is basically the same information he had given us, that she would have to have the same type access, the same type lease for the upstairs that she has for the downstairs. So they drafted the lease provision that says landlord also grants tenant and tenant's invitees a non-exclusive license to access and use the common areas of the building, which for purpose of this lease expressly include the banquet facility of the building. So they made the banquet facility a common area. Common area is like the bathroom. Bathrooms are common areas, hallways are common areas. So they made the banquet facility a common area, of which the premises is a part in conjunction with tenants' use of the premises pursuant to this lease. Tenants' access to the banquet facility shall not be limited, but tenants' commercial use of the banquet facility is only permitted for the purpose of lawfully serving alcohol in the banquet facility. Okay? So those two provisions conflict. And the ABC specifically said that we couldn't limit her to just the bar area, that she has to have the entire upstairs. She has to have access to the entire upstairs. And that was confirmed today in a telephone call, I understand, that the city attorney had, and I believe that Councilmember Williams was with him. They confirmed today that she would have to have access in a lease to all 6,000 square foot upstairs to have permanent liquor license for the upstairs area. Now, she can still have the same type of catering permit, one-time catering permit, that anybody else can have. So she can do one job at a time and get one liquor permit for that job. And she can negotiate one job at a time, but she cannot have exclusive liquor rights to the upstairs. There's no way for it to work unless we leased her the entire 6,000 square feet. And Aaron Lowry has confirmed that multiple times to multiple people now. And it simply doesn't work. The rental rates, we've got an option that I think is interesting we need to look at tonight. I'm still, as far as the rental rates concerned, I feel like the $750 without the liquor, dropping it to $750 for the first year, and then $850 for the second year, the $750 not starting for the first 3 months. I thought that was a very fair offer that we made at the last meeting. As I said before, the only utility that this lease includes is the gas for the appliances in the kitchen. Blake, have we fixed the heat in those rooms yet?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, do what?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Once the heat in those rooms is repaired, and we're working on that now, right?
Two are not working, the other are half.
Okay, well, when we get those repaired, we will be providing all heat, all air, all electricity for the entire area, the entire leased area. So it's all utilities, which for a restaurant like this is typically unheard of. Most leases are triple net leases, which means that they pay the rent, when they're they're paying the taxes, and they're paying all the utilities, okay? And this is not a triple net. This is just an excellent lease. It's a good deal, being getting your utilities paid. It's been 6 years at its current rate. And now, how long have we been working on this? 6 months, 5 months? Since there was the first notice, 5 months since it was the first notice. So there's been 5 months notice that the rents were going to increase. So it's been 6 years and 5 months that we've been at the current rate, and 5 months notice that the rents was going to increase. So it's no longer a surprise that the rents are going up. So I feel like it's a fair request to go to the $750, and I think that's a fair number. And that's basically what I have. That's what I have on each of these issues, and I appreciate y'all bearing with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie, because you answered that one question I had, which was about the 30 days, and that was from the workshop. But having the 15, I accept that, and that was the only other question. As far as the language, I'm comfortable with that. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to comment on the spreadsheet that I prepared, if y'all would give me a second. If you look at the very top 3 lines, I took the proposal that was in that lease agreement, and starting on the far left, I have a column called monthly rate, the dates that rate would be effective, how many months would that be entailing, what was the cost per square foot, and what was the rate of increase per month. So Mr. Cobb looked at it with me, these first 2 sections, and they did match exactly what was in those lease agreements. Then, obviously, that was revised for tonight's meeting. We had a new February 5th rent proposal, again, based on 3469 square foot, and it extended it with the 4-month and then 9 months. It separated how many months. So again, on the left column, you have the monthly rate, the dates it would be effective, the number of months that would be for, and what those square footage prices were, and then what the rate of increase and change was. I just thought the rate of change and increase from current rate to next year, for those next 9 months, was a little bit large. So I thought, what if we spread it out a little bit better? And in our lease, it says for 5 years, and I went ahead and made it the 5 years because what we had in the last 2 proposals were only for 3 years. And so if you take that same amount, started the same thing, I copied everything except I have the cost per square foot at $393, which is what it is now, took it up, and if you notice, instead of going for 117% rate increase, and then the second proposal was a 91% rate increase, this is a 70%. That's still a huge amount. But this was for that limited 9 months. If you look and finish out the entire 5 years, which is what we say the lease could be for, look at the annual amount, look at the amount per year, once that averages up the total on the far right where I have that summation, this actually is the same amount of money, if not more, spread out over 5 years and not front-loaded, what I would call it front-loaded, in those first 2 years, which I thought was just a drastic jump. I think if we're having a lease that talks about 5 years, My alternate proposal, and I apologize, I meant to give you one, is a better option. If you'll look at the approximate cost, income per year for the city, we'd already rejected January. It is a little bit more than what the February one that's in our proposal today, but it is spread across. So I think it's a more palatable, instead of just being front-loaded, it evens it out. And I think it might be more doable. In looking with some of the, I called a person with regard to economic development, like what are kind of those ranges? And the comment was between a 10 and a 20% range is a good number. You don't want to, jump somebody out of the ability to compete or the ability to have income. I go back to Councilman Broderick's comment about the reason we're giving some of this 4 months for the current time right now is once this is adopted, that gives our current person, like Caitlin, an opportunity to make new prices, make new menu prices so that can accommodate whatever the income rate would be. Everyone knows you've had to up your budget because the groceries have gone up. So her groceries have gone up, and people expect that. I just think having a better, because you see this, then it's like 15%, 13%, 10, 11, and it's just, and you have, the city as a whole, if you're looking at it as a landlord, we have not lost any money in this alternate proposal.
I was going to say, Williams, you've got, so you're showing right here,
Oh, I can't see where you're pointing to.
okay, so
Which column?
I'm just trying to make us have apples to apples and oranges to oranges. So you break this down into 5 years. So I think honestly, if you want to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges, you can't have 4 years right here and say, oh, look, that total is so
No.
much less than the one where you've got
No,
5
no.
years.
Look at the summation. I didn't do that. If you'll look on the far right-hand side on forget the January proposal because we've already removed that one and went to the February proposal.
So the top one is out of play anyway.
Out
It's
of
just-
play, but it was just historical data for me to start on
So
something.
we really only need to look
Okay.
at the bottom two.
Look at the bottom two. If you look at the bottom two,
Before we get into a lot of
Okay.
detail, I don't normally question a math teacher.
you can question me. I can make
But
mistakes.
9 plus 4 is 13, not 12, isn't it?
I said plus 1 month.
Yeah, I know, but isn't February to April 3 months and 9 plus 3, 12?
What?
February, March, April is
Sure.
3 months, and then 9 months on the other one makes 12
But
months.
I was going back to where we started this in January. Because when we started this in January, the current was, we kept that current. And so since we counted January in the very first proposal, I counted January in the second and the third proposal.
Oh, okay, okay. I
Okay,
see
so that
what
makes
you're doing. We
sense.
were
I was-
working with a February 1st dated
Okay.
lease, though, so.
Yeah,
okay.
but I was being consistent in those,
All right, you
because
confused
that,
me. I was
the lease
comparing-
through April's not
I
changed.
got you. I was comparing kumquats
Yep.
to rutabagas, so I had it
Okay,
wrong. Okay.
yeah. Now, please, I did this, I've checked it twice, I showed it to Steve today to see if he had any comments about it.
Who was funny and who was nice?
The, go ahead.
This is actually 6 years.
Here's my question on
It's,
that.
it's not, it's 5 years and 1 month, Mayor. There's 6 columns, but you got a 9-month and a 4-month.
Got it.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 months, and then the 2 add up to the 1 year.
Just, and math is not more my forte, but on that February, the middle proposal, if that's leaving off, that 89,000 is the 3-year total, but you'd have 2 more years at that
At
36,420.
Okay, but that's why
Which
I
is the
did,
point I was
that's why I
trying to
did the
make.
green that says what's the approximate per year. So on that 8990, I divide by 3, and on the bottom one, I divide by 5. Because if it's 150,000 over 5 years, you divide that by 5. so
Right,
that's
but
your
you do
35.
understand that's going to go up.
Well-
When you average them out and you're talking about additional years at $10.50 a square foot, your overall average is going to go up. And I hate to question a math
Well,
teacher
yeah.
too, but
No, but, okay. All I'm saying is that if you look at what the 12 months for in the original February proposal, The very first full year is 2944. The next one, y'all can check the math. I already admitted I could have made a mistake. It's one person
Okay,
doing
so
it. Nobody.
We've
I
already
wasn't
found
allowed
some
to work with
mistakes.
y'all and have you double check my math. That was against the rules.
It is against the rules.
So I didn't. So we can do it. You can do it here.
So who honked this up, you or Excel?
Well, Excel, of course, turkey. But when all else fails, you get your calculator and you double check.
That's what Excel does for me.
I know, it does it for me as well. So I think it's a way to slide into the rate increase without hitting somebody over the head, is what I'm trying to say. And the net revenue in the period of time per year is the same. I just hope you would consider this alternative.
Well, the net revenues are the same. We don't know what the CPI increases would be under number 2, if we'd have 3% or 5%. So we
But I
don't
thought
know that the net revenues would be the same.
I thought the CPIs were if we,
The CPIs are automatic. The CPIs are automatic.
Because based on number 4, we talked about the CPI on number 4 under rent.
Where are you at, Marina? Number 4?
On number 4 on rent,
oh, you're back to the contract for tonight?
I'm back on the contract for
Okay.
tonight.
It's not just tonight's contract, it was the contract before that, too.
I agree, it was in both contracts.
But
But I thought it was after the 5th year for some reason, Charlie.
You got years 1, 2, 3, and then starting in year 4.
Commencing on February 1st and occurring the same day each year thereafter until the expiration of the term of this lease.
What page you
Annual-
on?
Well, there's not a page number, it's under number 4, rent.
Gotcha.
There's no page number on this contract. It just says commencing on February 1st, 2027, and occurring on the same date of each year thereafter until the expiration of the term or earlier termination of this lease. The annual rent will be increased cumulatively by the greater of 3% or the annual increase in the consumer price index. So,
Well, according to, on the 5th, on the alternative one, looking at the 5th year, you can look at the rate of increase, and that is more than your consumer price index.
Beverly, I think your math is off. If you take,
That's fine. I'm not offended.
if you take 17,433, 26,712.
Where are you, please?
If you look at the third one, 26,712, 33,408, 33,816, 37,296, divide that by 4, that is 29,121.
I didn't divide it by 4.
I know, but I'm trying to apples to apples and oranges to oranges. Now, if you go up to the one above and you go 19,512, 29,484, 36,424, you've got to add another 36,424, because remember, you've got that 750 in there. That comes out to be more per, average per year than this does.
Well, I took the entire 3 years and 1 month and added it together. That's all 3 years and 1 month and added together. And I divided by 3, and that's why you see the word approximately per year. But it is, you're not dividing it by 4 years. And I'm
Okay,
not-
but it's not going to change if you add the same upper number, they're both the same with it. You're still, your math is off.
Well, okay, I mean, I don't think so, but you can show me later. But-
So let me ask y'all this. It's in conjunction with what Councilmember Williams is talking about, but when we start talking about the price per square foot, the whole reason why the council got to that number was because these proposals came in, and that was some of the basis for what people are willing to pay. But we're not discussing or taking into consideration, they were willing to pay that because they were giving a proposal for food and alcohol rights upstairs. So if those proposals were known, that's not on the table, what would their proposed price have been? And then what does that equate to per square foot? See, we're.
Well, those numbers, as you recall, were the $11 number was down at the bottom. There was only one number under $11. All the rest were well above that. So we took into account the fact that those higher numbers required exclusive catering rights upstairs, or liquor exclusivity upstairs, or liquor exclusivity on the building, things that we couldn't give them, okay? And that's the
So you're saying
reason we,
that $11 a low one didn't include liquor exclusivity?
there was one of them that
No,
didn't.
no, it did not.
Yeah.
This is one.
And I think that, Mayor, didn't you have a discussion with some of the people
Yes.
today?
Yep, I did, because I just wanted to find out if you took all those things. And yes, we still have parties interested in it, and they did verify that, yeah, they would be willing to pay more than what we're actually offering. Although, you'd have to be crazy at this point, since we've put it out there in terms of it, but certainly at that $7.58, $58.50, 10.50, 10.50, which we've discussed. People, and the reason why, as I explained to, to Mr. Cobb and so forth, is because most restaurants, the utilities are not included. So it's a whole lot easier in terms of you have less volatility. That's rare in which you ever do that. So it's much easier for your budgeting and for everything else when you don't have to worry about those utility costs. Also, the beer sales is huge. There's so much profit in that. So just having that with the golf course, I didn't even bring up the fact that we took concessions out of it, and they would get concessions as well. So there is still lots of interest out there. And at this point, if we can't come to something, then it can be put out for proposal again, and you take out all those things, and you just say nothing but that space downstairs, this is what the square footage is, and we find out, and that's... But I do think we do have to be careful. I was at a homeowners meeting last night at Miller's Glen, and residents were coming up and talking to me about the fact that they're not happy with the fact that they feel like this is a sweetheart deal. They're frustrated. They can't believe that it's gone on this long, and they think that this is wrong. That they even think this is too cheap.
And I think this.
Yes.
I think.
Be professional, don't talk for somebody else who's not here to speak.
How about
You
y'all
are out
wait-
of order.
How about y'all wait till it's time for,
If you're signed up to speak, you may speak. Otherwise, please do not talk from the audience.
going back to Beverly, your proposal. The minimum CPI increase that's
Is 3%.
permitted under the lease is 3%. So at year 4, that would put us at $10.81 a square foot, where your year 4 has us at $9.75 a square foot. So you see where we're losing money on your proposal versus
Well, I
the
mean-
current lease.
If you want me to take and add another year with the CPI here, if you're at 875,
No, we're 1081 in year 4. 1081 in year
With the
4, with the
CPI.
minimum
With
CPI.
the CPI
but
of
the
three-
CPI could be higher than that.
off of this one, from 1050, you're saying your minimum's
1050,
10.
From 1050, we got a 1081 minimum, not knowing what CPI could be. It could be more. So that's, I think it's a very interesting thing, and if we were at a flat rate, of 1050, if we were proposing a flat rate of 1050 after the, starting in the third or fourth year, whatever year it goes to 1050, I think this would be an excellent option. But we're not. It is a fluid rental rate, subject to CPI, subject to the economy, starting in that February 1, that 2027 year. And so I really think that staying with the lease as it's currently drafted is a better option. That's my personal opinion. Otherwise, I think this would be an excellent option, but it's just doesn't, I don't think it works as well as the lease as it's drafted.
Well, I'm not comfortable with a 91% rate increase in 1 year. That's astronomical, in my opinion.
Well, as I pointed out earlier, that rate has been being paid for 6 years, and there's been a 5 months notice that it's going up.
Okay.
But that's not really a 5-month notice, because if any of us were business owners without getting a signed lease in hand, we're not gonna make changes and invest money and make new menus or do a whole lot of anything until we get a lease, especially the way this has dragged on. So I wouldn't say that we've had a 5-month notice to start, making change. I think the current tenant has been very unsure whether this was gonna move forward or not.
I will say this has drug on way too long, and it's time to do something. And I think 5 months is a long time. We've taken a lot of the city's time with this. We've got a lot of things going on, and it's time for us to do something up here, council. It's time for us to do something. I'm looking at all of us. It's time for us to do something, okay?
We'll let folks speak, and then y'all can decide what to do.
Probably
Yeah,
so.
and
I think it's
You almost made a motion for
probably-
this last month, right? Or
I
a
think-
couple of
And then we
weeks
had
ago.
time, and
I
then,
think it's probably time for us to do something, but I hear someone out there say COVID, the whole world had problems with COVID. I mean, it wasn't just one restaurant. What about every other restaurant in Little Rock and North Little Rock? What about every restaurant in Pulaski County? I feel bad for Caitlin, I do.
That wasn't a point she was making.
I know.
She made that point because no one would move into a new place or a restaurant during COVID. No one's gonna sign a lease during COVID.
Okay,
Okay, I'm not gonna go back and forth. I just heard someone yell out COVID, so,
and golf courses actually did record amounts because they were able to be open when other people were not. So, anyway, we have,
Okay,
does anybody
Caitlin, you're the
else
first
in
one
the,
that's-
well, let's find out, does anybody else need to make any more comments before we open this up? Councilmember Lilly, you've not spoken, I don't know if you would like to.
Well, the only
Anybody
thing that I
else?
would say is whatever we approve, I mean, it needs to be something that we would approve for anybody.
Thank you.
Not
Thank
just
you.
for Joey's. I mean, it needs to be Joey's or Freddie's or Ricky's or Bobby's or whoever's. I mean, that needs to be what we would do.
and I don't think we would, go ahead, Mike.
No, that's exactly what I was thinking. That when this is in place, whatever it is, it's for everybody. It's not just Caitlin, Joey's, whatever it is, we need to settle on something for everyone. Because we don't want to come back and do this again in 6 months or however long.
The only reason I actually did the alternate proposal is because I did not like the front loading, how it was front loaded up. And I've gone back, and Mr. Kyle Wade has checked the math, and the math is correct on
And
that
I'll
one
tell
side.
you that with the exception of the low lease amounts in the first years.
Oh, yeah.
This is drafted as I would draft it for Ricky, Bobby, Timmy, Roll, anybody.
You're saying that this
This
actual
this
lease,
lease
not
is
what Ms.
drafted-
Williams did?
This lease
Okay.
is drafted as I would draft a commercial lease if I was hired to draft it.
But I think what she's saying is we got an existing tenant that's being
Yes.
hit hard right off the bat. If somebody else is coming in, they've already got this, they know what they're entering into. I think that's
But
what
nobody
Beverly's-
knows what they're entering into better than Caitlin does. Nobody.
I'm just saying, I think that's what,
That's my point.
Yes.
You know, if someone walked in with the 750, new tenant, no big deal. Because that was not an increase. It's the fact that you have a tenant. I heard everyone in this room, I believe, without exception, say, we didn't want to get rid of Caitlin and Joey's. So I'm saying, well, let's see what we can do. Because I also heard that last month, when she asked us to postpone it, I can't afford that in 1 year because of some adjustments she's gonna have to make. I listened and I heard that. So that's why I thought, let's see if we can accomplish the same goal, or at least attempt to accomplish that same goal, and build it up on the back end.
and do you know if we do what your proposal is, do you know if she could
Nope.
even,
You don't know.
do you know that she would accept that?
Under advice of Mr. Cobb, I was not allowed to speak with Caitlin.
I
And
know.
I did not.
But I mean, I'm just.
So we don't know that she'd be able to make it with that. And I mean, it's, at some point, in any negotiation like this, you have to put it out there and say, and you get to a take it or leave it moment. You get to a take it or leave it moment. We can't, yes, we would like to keep Caitlin, but at some point, we're at a take it or leave it moment, and Caitlin can either pay the new rents, or she can't, and we have to move on. And we can't just keep going down and down, down. Oh, gosh, that increase is too much for Caitlin, well, let's lower it. That increase is too much for Caitlin, let's lower it, because, she's been there a long time, and I hate going up that much, but it's taxpayer-owned property. Now, I have done as much on this council, sitting right here, as anybody. I stopped those, and I made a lot of people mad at me when I stopped those bids from being opened. A lot of people mad at me. I
It's the right
stopped those
thing to
bids
do.
from being opened.
But it was the right thing to do,
I
Charlie.
sponsored the motion on this council that eliminated that bid process, that stopped that bid process. So, nobody on here has done more for Caitlin. I got Caitlin to this point. I got this lease to this point. But at some point, you have to say, this is taxpayer-owned property, and we're responsible for taxpayers' money. That's our number
Totally agree.
one responsibility is taxpayer money and being
facilities.
good stewards of taxpayer property and taxpayer money, okay? And so we can go so far to try to meet Caitlin, and she's got to go and figure out what her money situation is and what she can do, and nobody knows better than Caitlin what that restaurant can make, not make, or whatever, and she can either make the deal or not make the deal. And I think that at this $750 deal, we've gone as far as we can go. That's my opinion.
No, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I think that you're right, that Caitlin is the only one that really knows that, but I think it's a little naive of us to sit up here and think that we can put a number to what that's gonna be worth in 5 years. That's part of why that was not successful previously. There were 2 or 3 failures before that because we say this over and over, but we don't take it into account when we're having this money discussion. That is a very special location, and it's not like a regular restaurant where they have, a certain rent all year round. It's very seasonal, there's no front, all these things that we keep talking about. So what I would hate to happen, because we're gonna have to stick with this, if we pass this, it's good for Freddy's, whoever, Johnny's, whatever, and then we're gonna be in a real bad spot when they can't make it year 2 or year 3 or wherever they're at. And I think these numbers are too high overall. I just don't think it is sustainable for the amount of square footage that they actually can have tables and serve food, and it's seasonal. I don't think these are sustainable numbers.
Are we ready for public comment?
Yes, please.
Caitlin, you are first on the list. Please limit comments to 3 minutes.
Okay, I might be all over the place. First, I'm going to start with where you just went right into taxpayer money, and it's taxpayer property. But the very last meeting, in the same one we're discussing my lease, you're talking about giving taxpayer land, city land, 5 years rent-free to somebody. 5 years rent-free. And then they buy it for what the city paid for it. And that's okay. It feels like I'm getting punished for keeping it above water when four other owners could not keep it afloat with my rent or lower. And that was before food prices doubled over COVID. Employee prices doubled over COVID. Everything has doubled. And you are making it out like this is Bennett's or this is Chili's or whatever it is. It's not. And it's never going to be.
I don't know why I did that. You still have time. That wasn't you.
It shares a parking lot with the golf course. So during the day, all I get is golfers. That's it. And that's if they come off the golf course and they want to eat, which is what sometimes it's a drink and a hot dog. They're not coming in and having a full meal. At night,
it shares it with the event center. So every weekend when that event center is booked, I don't get business. Friday and Saturdays aren't necessarily busy for me because the parking lot's full. People can't be there. It is not a normal place, and it's not going to be. I worked there. Prior to my taking over, I worked there. And it never succeeded. They never made money. And that's not the point. This whole thing has been completely misleading and unethical. Josh came to me in June. We came to a negotiation, and it included food and beverage upstairs. My bid was exactly what he and I discussed. And now we have been referencing bids that were thrown out. And the mayor's sitting there saying people are still interested. Well, of course they're interested because they went out and, wow, in negotiations with me, they go out and they're shopping, actively shopping for people to take my place. That is not negotiation. And then after the bids are thrown out, we go back into negotiations with Cobb, who is named the negotiator. But he has no say. It's still Mary Jo and Josh. It's still them. They have lied, manipulated, badmouthed me. The fact that these pictures are shown in a meeting that's recorded, but you can't show them to me beforehand, what kind of relationship is that? Or the fact that I've run a charity event, this was my 3rd year, and I got an email 2 weeks before from the mayor trying to cancel it, saying that I didn't do these things when I did every single one of them. And then saying that if this is the relationship she's trying to have with the city, this is not the way to go about it. Well, this crap that you're putting me through is not the way to go about it. I don't know what your ultimate agenda is. I don't know who you have that you want in that spot. The people that you coached before the bid meeting in the parking lot. But we saw those meetings in the parking lot, but when FOI and camera footage, you couldn't get those things. That's kind of weird.
Caitlin?
What would you like? Because I know it's not going to be
Your
true.
time has expired. Time has expired.
I would just like to say for the record, I didn't meet with any restaurant owners in any way, shape, or form.
Yes, you did.
No,
Or
ma'am,
Josh
I did
did
not.
because he
I
is
did
up your
not.
butt so far.
All right.
And yes, I'm out of hand right now. I've been quiet for 8 damn months. 8 months.
Who's next?
Okay, our next speaker is Tom Brooks.
Sure.
Okay,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Corker, come on up. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me fine? Got a little bit of a rasp. I'm certainly not here to criticize. There's been enough on both sides for that. I do agree with Beverly and April. Tom, I think, and Marina can testify that my family, maybe Charlie, has been in the real estate business, in the rental business, both commercial and residential, for over 50 years. So I know a little bit about real estate. I know a little bit about leases. I probably could have drafted this lease in 30 minutes. And it's been 8 months. And I think 2 or 3, Mary, you can smirk, but it's the truth. I could have drafted this lease in about 30 minutes. It's not that hard. It's a little hole-in-the-wall place. Where you're missing the boat, I think, guys, and rightly so, and Caitlin was emotional, and I understand why. When you look as a owner of a property at a restaurant, you look at some things differently than you would, say, at an office building, okay? You look at what is the usable square foot, that place where she stores. That's not usable for a restaurant. It's just not. You're going to go in there and eat? Seriously? Are you going to go in the little place with no windows and no doors and you can't see the guy? No, you're not. So you almost have to take that out. You have to look at what the restaurant can use, do you know what their minimum or what their maximum capacity is in the restaurant? Do you know? Did anybody ask? Mr. Cobb? Did anybody ask what their maximum capacity is?
Can't comment back and forth.
Okay, so I take it you didn't. So these are the things that when you're looking at a restaurant, you look at what's their financials, and she needs to raise her prices, what's her net? You can't just look at square feet. You have to look at other things. I do agree with Beverly that we had to raise our rents. We raised our rents on everyone this year. We had to. Taxes went up, insurance has gone up. This is true, I get that. And I'm not saying you shouldn't. I do agree with Ms. Beverly. I think what you ought to do is split the baby and call it $6, which is more fair. Eliminate that, I don't know what you would ever do other than warehouse, that one room, and you can charge, going for a little warehouse space, about $50 or $100. But 119% increase, we would never do to a tenant. If you run Caitlin out.
That's your time, sir.
Okay, thank you. If I could finish my thought, please. If you run Caitlin out, which I don't think is your intention, you may have other people interested, but they won't be able to make it at this rent rate. I've done the math. I'm not a math teacher. They won't be able to make it, and you'll have a hole, and then what you'll have is no one ever interested in it again. It will sit there empty. I promise you. That's what will happen.
Tom Brooks? This is our last speaker. You have 3 minutes, sir.
My name is Tom Brooks. I live at 1616 Coolhurst in Sherwood, Arkansas. And I hope you will finalize this thing today. Here's a quick analogy. I think of a slope with ice in the bottom. Your car's stuck down there. We go this way, we make no progress. We've made no progress. The only progress, and I will say this, they keep going down on price. So if this lasts much longer, it may get down to free for a few years. And Beverly, I've been watching young Sheldon, binge watching it, and I'll be better you at math soon. But having said that, please get this thing over. I think the $750, I told Caitlin that one day, I think it's a good deal. Hell, you went down on the thing twice. And now the proposal, or a proposal, is less than that. So how far do you go down? How do you really decide what's really fair and really true? You got 8, 9 of you, 10 of you that are elected to office, and you're supposed to do that. And I think you reasonably do a very reasonable job. I'm trying to work. I'd like to get some of you to get me names so we can go get this wet dry thing done. I really would. And some of you can give them names. But I would think that it's hard to say, well, we screwed up for 6 years. You mentioned that, and didn't raise the rent, and we were all out of whack. But whose fault's that? That wasn't your fault necessarily. It wasn't Mary Jo's fault necessarily. It wasn't Virginia's fault necessarily, or Bill Harmon. I don't know where the thing went back, but it got pretty bad. And somewhere you have to get where it is. I own property, and I know, Corker, you said you do too, of course, a lot of it, because I know his dad quite well. And sometimes you have to get back to what is fair. That's a pretty damn cheap price, folks. $750 per foot includes utilities. That's a real good deal. If I were a younger guy, I'd try to hire a cook and get that myself. I could make a bunch of money, I think, and I'm not arguing with you, because I enjoyed my hamburger up there the other day, and it was cheap. And then I went for tacos one night, and they were cheap, and I enjoyed it. Prices are too low, and I do sincerely mean that. But please get this thing over, and I hope you'll go with the $750 thing and get it over. You know, because you do something doesn't mean you can't do something else 6 months from now, but we're still stuck that bottom of the ice. We're not going up, we're not going out. And I guess my 3 months are about up, so that's it.
You've got 30 seconds.
Hey, you're gonna like this. I'm gonna sit down.
Okay, thank you. That's all public comment.
Mark the calendar.
Well, I go back to the question at hand that I asked Ms. Williams. I mean, do we even know if Caitlin would even accept your proposal?
I'll be glad to give her a copy.
We've asked her before.
And I don't even know that this council up here even wants to even entertain that. But I just know that I, for one, am ready to get this over with. And I don't want to drag this on to another council meeting. We came up here tonight for a special meeting for a reason, and that reason was to get this over and done with, so that it's not on the agenda another night.
Are you are you ready to make a motion?
I'm ready to make a motion. I'm ready to vote on this
We're
thing.
gonna allow her to look at that.
So,
Well, do we want to give her a minute?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're going to give you a minute.
I have one question about a couple of things. Well, the list that Charlie brought up, when you said there's, the alcohol exclusivity is no longer there, she'd have to do it one at a time. Would she still be exclusive?
The days that she did it, yeah. Anybody, any liquor provider can get a caterer's permit for a one-time deal, you know, for one day or one event. Yeah,
and so they're exclusive for
that
event that day.
that day.
So what Aaron and I discussed with Steve,
It's not that easy for the one event. It's called a temporary permit, and it's good for up to 5 days. But it takes time for those permits to come through. You have to apply for every single one of them, and you have to donate 25% of your profits to a nonprofit. So it's not just that easy. And the email I received today said that the edits that my attorney made in there were acceptable. That was acceptable, that all they have to do, you have to do is allow me access upstairs. And of course you have to allow me access for the whole thing. They can't just drink beer in front of the bar. They have to drink it throughout the whole floor.
Your attorney's edits lease you the top floor.
What?
Your attorney's edits lease you the top floor. They would be acceptable.
It's a common area.
It's not a common area.
it is, that's how it's defined in the lease agreement.
But it's not like I'm going up there.
Yeah, this
and
is
like
not
my customer
appropriate.
is saying, "Well, it's up there." I don't really understand what you're
Okay.
We've had conversations, Councilmember Williams has had conversations with the attorney. Our city attorney's had conversations with the attorney. And I've read his emails to the city. Everything that we've had from him has said there's no way to do it unless we lease you, unless we include in your lease the 6,000 square foot upstairs area so that you have the same level of access that you have to your current bar. Now, what that would mean is that people, your invitees, and that your current one even says that, your invitees would have access to the upstairs just like they do the downstairs. An invitee is a person who comes into your restaurant to drink beer, which means that if an invitee, someone who's drinking beer, decided to wander upstairs, they could, and they would have to be allowed to.
What I discussed today with the Alcohol Control Board was with regard to, I'm not willing to give exclusive rights upstairs for everything, but let me finish just a second. What I was interested in is, would you have the right, I've rented it out. Friday night, I'm having a family get-together, we're gonna do a BYOB, and there's not gonna be a bartender, okay? We're gonna have police hired. But Saturday night, we're gonna have maybe a party, and I may want to hire a bartender. So if I hired a bartender to come up there, you could be that person hired to serve drinks or whatever, and that person would have to have a permit for that time. BYOB does not. Having a bartender, someone where the alcohol is sold, has to have a licensed bartender with a permit. Am I saying this correct? And the thing is that it's by event. You're exactly right. It's by event. It's not a contract of holisticness. So I believe we should go ahead and get Joey's settled tonight. I believe also that that if anything gets worked out about getting you a permit or things like that for upstairs, but not having exclusiveness, because we have too many events upstairs where the renters of the venue want to do a BYOB. They want to just have it, it's family, they're not gonna have a purchasing piece. As long as it's given away, we don't have to have a bartender. So I don't need that to interfere with those leases, or those for the event center.
over the next 12 months, we have 86 events currently contracted, over 40 of which are BYOB already. We have to honor all those contracts.
Well, and I get the current contract, and I get that part, I do. And I wouldn't want to interfere with
Sure.
that part. You know, we get through this year and maybe, and my thing expands next year, at the beginning of 2025. And those are things that can be worked out, but at the same time, like, you know, there've been instances, there was a reunion at the end of last year that had a cash bar. How nobody upstairs knew that until I brought it to their attention because they were coming downstairs and buying my drinks because they were cheaper. I don't know. Like, I don't, and then like, if there's an instance, because there's no permit up there, if somebody's drinking upstairs and they leave and they get in a wreck and they kill somebody, who's liable? Who is liable at that point?
All alcohol has to have, anytime alcohol is served, there has to be security there.
Yep.
And that doesn't change. And we can sit there and go back and forth of a one incident here and a one incident there. I will, exactly, and that could happen downstairs as well. It could happen anywhere. So we do require security, and that's the reason why we require the security, because that's one of the things that they are watching for is overconsumption.
So Charlie, this is my question for you. When you were talking about, if this were to pass and then it was set to look at 2025, were you saying that, is there an option to reword the wording so that the invitees do not necessarily have full reign to everywhere that the tenant would have access to? Is that an option?
No,
ABC
not
board.
according to Aaron, whatever his name is. Aaron Lowry. The lease, it has to have the same access upstairs that the people have downstairs. It has to be the exact same. The lease has to be the same upstairs as downstairs. Everything has to be identical.
It
But let
appeared unfavorable to have a lease to the bartender. It appeared
Right,
more
but-
favorable to lease it out to a person.
And it has to be the same amount of space. It can't be,
Okay, but let me ask you this. So there are times where owners say, no customers past this point or something like that.
if you do that, then you have to build a wall. Because he went into that with him, said, what if we just do the bar area and around the bar area? And Mr. Lowry said, then you have to build a physical partition, a permanent wall.
What about the door that goes upstairs? So if the
That-
tenant
that
had a
can never
key
be-
to the
that-
door?
That would have to be open at all times. It can't be blocked. There has to be permanent, has to be permanent
And
access.
can there be a sign that says
No,
no
it
customers
has to
past
be
this
access.
point?
Has to be access. Always access between the two places. Has to be a lease that includes the upstairs and the downstairs. Has to be always accessible. And the upstairs has to be always accessible, the whole 6,000 square feet.
Let's clarify
If it's all included in one thing.
If it's all included in the
And-
lease, if the Joey's lease and the Green's lease has the same,
If she wants to serve
then it's
liquor
got to be
upstairs to the whole
open.
banquet
Then
area,
it has to be open.
that way, right?
But as it
And they
is right
can't be
now, it does
separate.
not
Can't be
have to
separate.
be open, it can be closed. It's two separate,
I'm asking, can there be two leases?
No, because it's
Yeah.
one liquor permit.
there can be two leases.
No, they can't because it's one
Well,
liquor
in
permit.
a different scenario.
Only with those temporary liquor permits.
Okay, okay,
temporary
that
liquor
don't,
permits.
so,
Yeah.
but you can't, I mean, could Beverly Williams lease upstairs?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and Caitlin downstairs, there could be two separate
Yeah,
leases.
we're-
for
that-
her.
that's not the-
That's what she asked, that's what she asked.
I guess that's my question, though. If it's a separate address, April Broderick could lease the upstairs?
Yes.
You know, if I got a liquor license, but why can't the current tenant have two leases for two addresses and they each have their own?
ABC.
She can, but she
Because
can only have one
ABC
liquor
says no.
permit. And if she wants that liquor permit to extend upstairs, then she can only have one lease.
Yeah, it's,
and we can't lose control of that upstairs
No.
venue.
I will
It's
tell you
doing
that
too
I
well.
would tell you that the alcohol beverage control laws in Arkansas recently brought up to about the 1950s, and they haven't gotten beyond that. And it's like, attorneys complain about them constantly, so they're much more restrictive than they are in other states.
I would say if something dramatic happens with ABC and they update things and they then allow it, then,
That's something to
then
revisit.
that's something that can
revisit.
certainly be revisited. It's just, as of now, it's not.
Councilmember Williams, what were you saying about revisiting in 2025 about the if things change?
That was Miss April.
Well, you said we
you
could,
did.
you said we could work on this
Oh,
lease
okay.
tonight and then.
Get
What
the
I'd like to-
Joey's
yes,
piece
thank you.
done.
Yes.
I would like to have Joey's done, and then at any point in time, if
Okay.
we learn more things about the ABC, then we could re-enter that discussion. I'm very open to that.
I think
But-
that's a given for
That's-
everybody,
but
and that's
but
on
it-
the record.
But
Yeah.
I don't know that it's been on the record, so I want us all to like, everybody nodding, 100% of the
Well,
council is nodding.
The council can amend this lease anytime it wants
Exactly.
to, if she's agreeable. Both parties have to be agreeable to
Okay.
the amendment.
I am,
Yes.
I want to make a motion.
Well, then, has she?
Well,
wait,
let's-
She's gotta wait to see what she says about your,
I have one more question. My previous lease, at the very least, gave me exclusive right to the beer on the golf course. This one does not. Is it possible to put that back in there?
The reason this one does not give you that is because your current permit doesn't allow you to do beer outside. But are you gonna amend do what?
I have an off-premise beer permit.
Do we have a copy of it? All we had was a
The
copy of
way,
it
the way that was explained to me, I asked that question, was that,
Serve it, or I can't like put a vending machine on the golf course. or
Sure.
something.
no,
Buy it
what,
from
the
me.
way they explained
Yeah, they
that
can buy it.
is your permit is
On-premise only.
on-premise only. People can come in there and buy beer and go out on the golf course, but you can't go out on the golf course and sell beer.
You can't take the little cart out there and sell it.
You still have the same permit you've got now. They
And-
just have to come in and buy it there.
And we can't like have golf police out there and, oh, did you buy that beer at Caitlin's or did you bring it? I mean,
Are
we
they
just can't
allowed
do
to
that.
bring beer?
They're not supposed to, but they do. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want the city or tournaments or whatever coming in and them selling beer.
Oh, you have the first right of refusal
They
to
can't sell
catering
They
any
can't
golf
sell it.
course.
But they can give it away, but they can't sell
If
it.
a
You do have the
sponsor,
first right of refusal to catering any golf tournament. That's in the lease.
okay. If a golf tournament has Budweiser as a sponsor for their golf tournament, and they're gonna donate 100 cans of beer, they have a right to give that away, but they cannot sell it.
What happens when something happens at that tournament and they say it was me that gave them the beer?
They'll know that better, because they've got sponsorship signs everywhere about who sponsored it and who donated it.
I'd like to make a,
I'd
like to make a motion.
That is correct.
Make your motion.
Make it, go ahead, Councilmember Brooks, you have the
Hold on a
table.
minute. We asked Caitlin to look at this. Is she, I mean, are we gonna go forward with this? Or are we gonna go
Councilmember-
with the motion?
That is,
Councilmember Brooks
apologize to her
does
for
have
yelling at
the
us.
I
floor.
wasn't saying anything to her. I was just saying, no.
No,
Okay, I apologize if you thought I was talking to you. I wasn't talking to you. I was just saying in general, we've asked her to take a look at this and we've not addressed that at all.
I think that's what Marina was saying, the same thing.
No, oh, I'm sorry. No, I wasn't talking to you at all. I was making a point.
I think you both were engrossed and didn't know each other was going.
Councilmember Brooks, you have the floor.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Miss Williams' proposal of the,
Alternate proposal, just,
I guess, her alternate proposal.
This one.
Is that what,
Talking about the one on the bottom?
yes. The only one that says alternate
That's the only
proposal.
one. That's the only thing that's different.
yes, her alternate proposal,
And that the lease be amended as such.
and at least be amended as such.
Second.
So can I make a friendly amendment to that, that the
Yes, you may.
CPI language would be included beginning February of 29?
Yes, you may.
February of 29. Yeah, see,
There's-
that's fine.
Okay,
It's
so we
only a
have a
5-year
motion and a
lease.
second to make an amendment to the existing lease.
It's only a 5-year lease, so it ends in 29.
It does end in 29. Then you can then you don't have to have that.
So,
That's right.
Council, are you
CPI
saying no CPI?
Well, I was gonna say that the CPI language, go into effect following January of 29, but the
The
lease is
CPI
gonna
goes
be up.
in,
then.
the CPI goes in effect in 27.
It wouldn't according to.
According to this,
alternate
it's-
proposal.
It won't if you adopt that alternate proposal. That's why I said that her lease gives us less money than it currently does, because CPI goes in 27.
I removed my friendly
I
amendment.
remove my motion.
Hang on. I don't see how the CPI is less when this is showing 11%. The CPI max is 5. If you look at,
She
if you
has
look
she
at,
has a
Before,
question.
We go to 1081
No, no.
a square foot in your.
okay, hang on, you're on this one. But we're talking about this one.
I understand.
Okay.
She has
What are
she-
you at year four? What's
Let-
your square footage
okay,
in year four?
Square footage in year 4 is 975. But
We're
hang,
at
let me,
1081. We're at a minimum of 1081. It
Okay.
could be higher.
but the other comment is that I'm just simply saying that this is an 11% raise and that one's a 10% raise. And the biggest, the CPI, is a 5% raise. So
But the number is what matters.
I understand that.
So it's less money on yours than it would be on the current lease because we're at least 1081 a square foot in year 4
Well-
and you're at 975.
I don't think you can combine the two.
No, my question is, we've gone years at this low amount, years. And if we go to this, does that really, I mean, is that big of a difference if we go with this? You see what I'm saying, making sense? I mean, no one
The
has
difference
said
is
anything
the difference is
until-
6 cents.
Yeah, no one has said anything until this year, until this came up. So if it's 650 I mean, why can we not adopt this? It is a little bit lower. But we've gone years without at
Can
this.
we recognize Caitlin?
Caitlin, can you come over to the microphone so that it's,
Okay, so if you look up the average CPI over the last 10 years, it was 2.7%. 2.7, okay? I worked it up the other day. Every year since my lease started, I worked it up 3% and 5%. 3%, 5%, okay? If I went from where I started, which is what I was given, whether it was low in 2017, I have absolutely no idea. But if you went up 3% every year, my rent this year would be $13.98. If you went up 5%, which is double the average CPI of the last 10 years, it would be $15.98. And in 2028, it would be $19.43. You guys want over $1,000 a month more than that. And that's double the average CPI of the last 10 years. And I was going to type it up, but my printer wasn't working. So
I think that's an excellent point. I know that you guys want to put this thing to bed, but these numbers are too high to be sustainable.
I would be happy to go with the 5% and continue 5% every year. And I feel like that's reasonable. I get you've got other people who say they would be able to whatever, but nobody knows the space. They don't. That's all I got.
All right, I'm going to go back and make my motion again.
What is it now?
Same,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
No,
I'm just going to make my motion that we go ahead and adopt Ms. Williams' alternate Joey's rent proposal, which is the bottom of her handout.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
roll call, please.
This is on the amendment.
Thomas, Williams,
Aye.
Broderick,
No.
Lilly,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Harmon,
No.
Brooks,
Aye.
Wade.
No.
What you got?
I have 4 yeses and 3 noes, so.
So the amendment fails. So we're back to the original.
Would the council entertain the increases that, we don't have it in front of us, but if we increased, even if we increased 5%, would the council entertain that where we would be at now to, is that something that?
You just voted this thing.
If we split the difference and increase 4% a year?
I would be fine with that.
Let me be clear on what you're saying, just because we'll have to write this. Are you saying commencing
So,
when?
So in 2017, kind of Caitlin's example, in 2017, if we split the difference and we had a 4% increase, so in 20, she was at
4% on what?
She was at 1137, and we increase 4%,
This year?
no, if we had incrementally increased it every year for 4%, what would we be at now? That would be our base price, and kind of stair step it that way to get us more kind of in line rather than this huge jump. Is that something the council would consider?
Hold on a second. Dadnabbit.
I think that, I think we need to be careful in terms of, you had a proposal before you, I think at this point, voted up or down, and then you guys can go back if you don't want it, play with the numbers again, and then, bring it forward next month. But trying to do this on the fly,
Well, it's not this month, it's this month.
I mean, we need some math going on here. What are
Okay.
we talking about?
and that's my point with it, so.
Well,
Well, if we could sit tight for 10
Just-
minutes or so, let's.
Why don't we take a recess, just for a minute?
If it was 5%, it would be 1598 right now. That's if it was.
Council, is everybody good with a 5-minute recess?
Yes, sure. Good with
All right,
the recess.
Thank you.
ask Steve.
Ask her.
Caitlin, that's not right.
Okay, we got it. Thank you.
The definition of fair market value in real estate, would you like to give them the definition of fair, you've shown yourself to be an expert in real estate. Would you like to give them the definition?
Okay.
Yes, yes. What is the official definition of fair market value in real estate? It's a real simple one-sentence definition.
But anybody's willing to pay.
Fair market value would be, well, it's not actually a one-sentence answer.
It is a one
It could be the appraised value of the property.
No.
Well, yes, it could be. That could be the fair, or what someone is willing to pay for the property.
That's exactly what it is. In the courts, the fair market value is what a willing seller or renter is willing to pay to a willing lessor or willing lessee or buyer in an arm's length transaction.
You're correct. You're correct.
That's the courtroom definition
Yes,
of
it is.
of fair market
What
value.
someone is willing to pay.
Right.
But if I could add this, just because they say they can pay it, don't mean they will.
That's right. In any situation.
That's
It's
called
always a
foreclosure.
risk. There's always a risk. There's always a risk. But the fact that the city has 5 or 6 bids,
From a bid process that never should have gone out.
it doesn't matter whether it should have gone out or not, it did.
We really should not be having this back and forth with the audience.
5% every year. None of this would have ever even been a thing. So you are referencing these bids. One, you don't know that they can pay. Two, you don't know that it will survive there.
If I increase you to this number, I don't know that you can pay either, so it would take a risk either way. But the fact of the matter is, the bids went out. We didn't want to open. I didn't want to open them. I asked that they be locked in a safe. But the gentleman behind you in the sweatshirt who was yelling at me a while ago FOI'd them and forced us to open them. The only reason they're opened is because he FOI'd them and forced us to open them. So that's the reason we know what's in those bids. Otherwise, they were to be kept in a safe and locked and never opened.
But one of the
That was our
things-
desire.
I'm a-
But they were open, and we know what's in them.
And-
And so we've taken those and we look at them and we discount the high ones where they wanted to have exclusive liquor and exclusive catering upstairs, and we bring it down and we get down into the $11, $12 number range, and we took it down to $10.50, and we discounted it further, and we took it down to $10.50, and that's the best we can come up with ballpark for that. Now, we're more than happy to bring in an expert, bring in a real estate expert and ask them to give us an appraisal and tell us what the fair market value is for that building.
And I know, honestly, I think that's something that the council needs to consider at this point, because it's a lot of back and forth. We can get this professionally evaluated
I think it's an excellent idea.
and then go from there instead of speculating.
And I think we need to bring some closure. I'm sorry.
I'd like to make a motion to move forward with the new proposed numbers. Steve, I can read them again if I need to. This 2024 being 1,600, 2025 being 1,680, 2026 being 1,764, 2027 being 1,852, and the fifth year being 1945. That's my motion.
Is there a second on the amendment?
I'll second it.
Roll call?
Thomas, Williams,
Aye.
Broderick,
Aye.
Lilly,
No.
Sanders,
Aye.
Harmon,
No?
Brooks,
No.
Wade.
Aye.
3-3.
4-3 again.
Does not pass.
So I'm willing, I mean, if we can get closer to, you know, even what Councilmember Williams has got in, you know, in May 24, 25, you know, 1937, if we can get closer to that as a starting point, and then, you know, rolling up from there at a more aggressive rate towards what we think is fair market value, then, you know, we've got time to move. we can then go ahead and, well, let me think through this a little harder. So if we do this at 1937, you know, for a year, and we go ahead and move and get someone looking at the property from a fair market value perspective and give us a real, I don't know, Charlie, legal real estate opinion, I mean, what would, you know,
Yeah,
what
you get
would?
an appraiser,
We
you
could turn it over to a property management company.
And then, so then we've got this settled for 1 year, and in the meantime, we're doing our diligence, and we can do this. As much as I'd hate to do this again in another year, at least we can come to the table with, you know, good, firm, information, and, you know, really look at this, you know, in a much briefer period than what we've done this go-round.
I think that's,
I took your numbers and did what you said. So if we made it 1937 for 2024, then at 5%, taking that rate of 5%, it goes up to 2031 for 25, goes up to 2132 for 26, goes up for 2239 for 27, and 2351 for 28. And please double check the math.
now, is that what you're talking about doing, or are you talking about
Just
just
doing
having
it
a
for
1-year
1
lease?
year.
I thought he was talking about having just a 1-year lease, and during that 1 year, doing an appraisal to
Yeah,
find out.
I think that's
To find out
that's
what the
more
fair
in
market
line
value
with where
is.
my head's at.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think we have a 1-year lease where she pays that 1937 for 9 months, and she stays where she is for 3 months, pays 1937 for 9 months, and during that 1 year, we work on figuring out officially what the fair market value is for the property, and then we'll when we renew the lease at the end of the year, we'll figure out how to step it up to what we determine the actual fair market value is at that point.
Is that a motion? And when you say 1937, you're
19,
saying?
motion for a 1 year, to amend the lease to 1 year,
Well,
paying 1937
9 months,
for
you're
9
saying.
months.
For the remainder of
For
2024.
$1,937
January.
per
It goes
month
to the
for
end of
9
January.
months.
Well,
Okay, we have a motion.
Wait, just
Let's
a
be clear
minute.
about this.
Yeah.
If, we've still got, if I'm looking at the proposal, are you talking about starting in 1937 in May?
It's,
Yes.
yes.
So it'll be
it would
May for the 9 months.
May through January.
So the way that the lease is written right now, let me get back there.
It'll just be a 1-year lease.
No, I understand that, but I want, what we have here written now, commencing on February 1st, since we're talking about backdating this to some extent, Caitlin will continue to pay $1137.
Right.
For 3 months,
Right.
February, March, April.
Right.
Then the 1937
Will begin on May 1st.
would commence on May 1 for the remainder of the year.
No, through January. It's a 9 months.
Right,
isn't it?
through January 25.
Okay.
Through January. So the renewal would come up February 1
Right.
of next year.
It's a February 1 lease, right.
Okay.
Guys,
Is
that's-
that the
that's
Yes.
the
really-
motion that you're
That's the
making?
motion.
Wait,
Okay.
wait, we're
this-
still.
Discussion, we'd like some discussion here.
Well, we've got a motion, we've got a second, then
We
we'll
didn't
open it
have
up.
a motion.
He just said,
I
he
made the
just
motion.
made the motion.
I
Is
have a
there,
right to make a
is there a
motion.
second? And then we'll open it up for
Second.
discussion. Open up for discussion.
That's very hard to ask a tenant, especially after all of this, for this many months, to agree to a 1-year lease. That's a tough spot to be in,
Okay.
especially for a restaurant, guys. I mean, that's really not, I don't know any other restaurants, you know, a Gadwall's, a Bennett's, any of those that would want to agree to a 1 year.
Well, we've got to get and move more aggressive to what we think fair market value is, okay? I don't think at this point we really know beyond, you know, what we've done with the bids that were opened, what that fair market value is. So,
Are you
I mean,
open to?
but $1,400 or $1,600, I don't think is it. It's not anywhere close to it.
Well, are you
You
open
know,
to
so.
increasing 5%, like Beverly was talking, from starting at 1937, that to be the starting point?
You know, at the end of that, what was your ending number, 2,300? And so that leaves us almost,
2351?
Yeah, so that leaves us almost $700 and
That's
almost
seven-
$800 below
that's-
what we feel fair market value is today.
That number is based off of having food and exclusive alcohol.
No,
No.
no.
And
That is
that's
not-
what,
that
that
is
was
not
with
what's
Ms.
in
Williams'
this.
proposal too.
The RFPs that came in were with food and things
Not
upstairs.
all of them were.
Well, but I read the RFP, and the RFP had said that they were to include that in their proposals.
They were negotiations. They were negotiating.
But it was in the RFP. The point is
That
correct.
they could.
So what if we do a 3-year lease with the 5% increase per year? I mean, that gives us 3 years to figure out what our fair market value is.
And she's been doing 3-year leases up to
That's
now anyway.
reasonable. I think
That's palatable.
That's,
Okay.
can we do that?
I'll
Are you
amend-
amending your
I'll
motion?
amend-
So-
I'll amend my lease.
Okay, hold
I'll
on.
amend my motion to 3 years with 5% increases for year 2
Do you
and
want to
year
see what
3.
that looks like?
It's
math-wise?
1937,
No, you don't care.
2031, and then 2132.
Okay, hang on, say that again.
1937,
That would commence on May 1.
okay, then for the next year be 2031,
That will commence on February 1.
Uh-huh.
and then 2132. And please check my math,
That's what I got.
okay?
2132.
Always say that, that's a disclaimer.
So we've got a motion and a second on the table. Do we need to
Call for a
just-
vote.
Okay, roll call.
That wasn't the motion and the
The
second.
amendment.
Hold on, we have an amendment.
I amended my motion.
Okay, let's
Will you
make,
amend
We-
your
I
second?
I
Well, she's the
second.
one who actually
Will
seconded.
you amend
Oh,
your
good.
second?
I'll amend my second.
Okay, so you've got a motion on the amendment.
Can
All
I
right,
say it
will you
now?
restate the motion?
The motion is that we'll have a 3-year lease with 1937 for the, 1137 for the first 3 months, 1937 for 9 months after that, ending on January 31st of '25, then 5% increases for the next 2 years with the lease ending on January 31st of 2027.
and the increase in February of next year is to 2023, and the year after that is to 2132.
I've got, it's 2134, and then 2130, it's off by a couple of pennies there. 2136.
Well, it's 5%.
It's 5%.
Just do 5%.
It's 5%, what I said, yeah.
5% from the 1937.
Right.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
each year.
Each year.
Okay.
And the last one's 2242.
so
That's
the
the
motion on
restated
the
motion.
Wait.
amendment-
Okay, then we need to call the roll on the
Yes.
motion to amend.
Thomas, Williams.
Yes.
Broderick,
Yes.
Lilly,
Yes.
Sanders.
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Wade.
Yes.
Okay, now is there a motion to adopt the lease?
Move for the
Yes.
adoption.
Second.
As amended.
Second.
Yes.
Thomas, Williams.
Yes.
Broderick,
Yes.
Lilly,
Yes.
Sanders.
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Wade.
Yes. Motion to adjourn.
Thank y'all for compromising with each other tonight. That was very good.
Painful.